Good evening, everyone. I'm Melanie Christopher. We interrupt your usual program for breaking news. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves is holding a news conference to address Jackson's water crisis. We take you there now.
But that it was a near impossibility. We were told on Friday that there was no way to predict exactly when, but that it was a near certainty that Jackson would fail to produce running water sometime in the next several weeks or months if something did not materially improve. We began preparing for a scenario where Jackson would be without running water for an extended period. Over the weekend, we started developing water distribution plans, sourcing tankers, and assessing all of the risk associated with an event like this. We also set a meeting for today between the mayor and our experts. All of this was with the prayer that we would have more time before their system ran to failure. Unfortunately, that failure appears to have begun today. As we speak, we are drafting a state of emergency declaration with regards to Jackson's failure to produce running water. The State Health Department has also prepared an emergency order. This is a very different situation from a boil water notice, which is also a serious situation which residents of Jackson have become tragically numb to. Until it is fixed, it means we do not have reliable running water at scale. It means the city cannot produce enough water to fight fires, to reliably flush toilets, and to meet other critical needs. The Mississippi Emergency Management Agency will take the state's lead on distributing drinking water and non-drinking water to residents of the city of Jackson. Replacing our largest city's infrastructure of running water with human distribution is a massively complicated logistical task. We need to provide it for up to 180,000 people for an unknown period of time. We have the best possible expert leadership and manpower, but it will still not be easy. We have immediately organized water for fire safety, which was one of our first priorities. We are organizing the resources to provide water for sanitation and life safety. If you have the personal resources to provide for yourself or your neighbors, we are asking Mississippians to please do so. Leave these resources for those who absolutely need them. We have also offered the mayor what we believe to be an incredibly generous conditions for helping improve the water situation in Jackson. There is no silver bullet fix, but is a better shot at success. The state has created an incident command structure and is surging our resources to the city's water treatment facility and beginning emergency maintenance, repairs, and improvements. We will do everything in our power to restore water pressure and get water flowing back to the people of Jackson. We will cash flow the operation, and the city will be responsible for half of the cost of the emergency improvements that we make. I want to make something very clear to those operators we have been and will be reaching out to. You will be paid for your work. The state is owning that guarantee. The mayor, to my knowledge, has accepted those terms in principle, and the Mobile Incident Command Center will be operating tomorrow morning. Please stay safe. Do not drink the water. In too many cases, it is raw water from the reservoir being pushed through the pipes. Be smart. Protect yourself. Protect your family. Preserve water and look out for your fellow man and look out for your neighbors. The state of Mississippi is marshaling tremendous resources to protect the people of our capital city. It will take time for that to come to fruition. But we are here in times of crisis for anyone in the state who needs it. That's my responsibility as governor, and it is what everyone here today is committed to do. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Edney with the Mississippi State Department of Health. I'm also going to turn it over to Jim, and then I will turn it over to the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency, so each of them can give you a briefing as to what their agencies are focused on and what they are doing at this time. Dr. Edney?
Thank you, Governor, and thank y'all for being here. It's so important to communicate to everyone from a public health standpoint as a state health officer that first and foremost for our agency, we are concerned about preserving and protecting the public health of the citizens of Jackson and the surrounding area. In our regulatory capacity, we have been monitoring the city's water, which is why we've been on a boil water notice for over 30 days now, and have also been monitoring plant operations and trying to identify problems as best we could to determine where we really stood with things and what was the foreseeable future that we'd be looking at in terms of needing to be prepared for a response. Last week, it became evident that we needed to be prepared for the eventuality that occurred today, and actually state resources are being marshaled last week. The public health concerns are significant based on failure of multiple pumps that pump raw water at O.B. Curtis, severe understaffing at both Field Water Plant and O.B. Curtis, very low water pressures in the overhead storage tanks, which is why the city of Jackson today, there was very poor water flow and reaching the point where we can no longer flush the toilets, which is impacting individual sanitation in our homes, in our institutions, and certainly in our educational facilities, which is going to impact the ability of our students to be attending school. And very importantly, from a public health standpoint, as the governor said, the water is not safe to drink, and I would even say it's not safe to brush your teeth with because we are not seeing adequate chlorination and inability to consistently disinfect the water. So you need to boil the water for 3 minutes fully and conserve your water, but husband your water resources, but make sure that as you're brushing your teeth and using any water to drink or prepare your meals that that it is safe and fully boiled. And understand that we, as we did with COVID, we will remain to continue to be transparent in the things that we do, the things that we find, and the recommendations that we bring forth, and information will be coming to you daily as we mount this response. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Jim Craig.
Thank you, Dr. Edney. So just a little bit on the incident command piece. We'll begin a unified command system in the city of Jackson out at O.B. Curtis beginning tomorrow. We'll have incident command representation from the city as well as from MEMA, the health department, and potentially the county. So we'll have a battle rhythm, like Dr. Edney said, that will be transparent as far as providing information. Every day we'll have an incident action plan for the activities that we plan in the water system, as well as a situation report on accomplishing those activities in the afternoons. So we'll make sure that information is available so that everyone will know what the current conditions are, as well as those actions that the state will be taking to mitigate those. With that, I'll turn it over to Mac.
Hey, good evening. I'm Steve McCraney with MEMA. Just want to talk about some of the things we're going to do right up front. I've been looking at the issue of trying to distribute water to the entire city of Jackson and the city of Byron, who's a customer of the city of Jackson's water system. So we're going to fall in right now because there's EPA decree on the city to distribute water from the fire station. So we're immediately going to backfill them with the water at those locations, knowing that eventually we want to move it away from there because we don't want a line of 100 cars around a fire station that we're trying to get an apparatus out to go service an emergency call, et cetera, and those things. So that's what we're going to immediately fall back on to. We have already ordered water to backfill our other needs out of our logistical warehouse. And we're also asking the governor to do an executive order to mobilize the National Guard for a command and control cell to be able to do what we do in a normal hurricane incident. It's a pod. It's point of distribution. It's not that we haven't done it before, so we're very good at it, and the Guard is one of our taskmasters. They come in with command and control. They come in with vehicles and personnel that can also augment all of this distribution of water. So what do we do right now? Keep boiling your water. Dr. Edney said it. If you've got some water in the system, boil it. If you've got some that's that you can use for flushing, we're going to bring in non-potable water as well. We'll have a different distribution site for that. We do not want to confuse drinking water with non-potable, where you can do the flushing of toilets and keep yourself as safe as you can. So this process is all about resources and distribution. We've done it before in many hurricanes, many tornadoes, and we're going to do the same thing within the city of Jackson. The Unified Command is a special instrument and tool. That means every person that has skin in the game is at the table. That way, we're all speaking with one voice. We're all working, identifying problems, working on solutions, and we're going to come up with the end that's going to be great for the city of Jackson on the backside. Sometimes we might just identify a problem or identify a piece of equipment. That's part of the solution. So we're going to be working all the way through that every day. Jim and I will be there tomorrow morning, and then we'll continue to meet on a daily basis and continue to map out the progress thereof. We already talked about just same thing we did with COVID. We published what we did. Where are we distributing shots? Where are we distributing other things? We're going to do the same thing in this operation, so everyone knows what the state and the city, the county are all doing in the next measure. The next steps that we take. Last thing I want to cover is I've been talking with Hinds County Emergency Management Office. Joey Perkins, he has secured the ability to provide firefighting water for all the fire trucks. As we lose pressure, we lose the ability to take in that water from the actual hydrants. So we've got a tanker system already set up, he has, and we're ready to go and ready to support him if he has any extra needs from there. So, Governor, that's all I have at this time.
Thank you to each of you for your dedicated efforts. Just as a summary, starting tomorrow morning, we will have a Unified Incident Command Center at O.B. Curtis. Our initial efforts will be to get that particular facility operating as quickly as possible. We will have more visibility as to what that's going to take once we get into the facility. And when I say we, I certainly don't mean me, but I mean the experts, the engineers, and others that work for the State Department of Health, work for Jim. This is going to operate in terms of the distribution that Mac talked about earlier. In a similar way, I feel like we're at that point as we were in early January of last year, when the vaccines, after 3 weeks, were not being distributed as quickly as we would have liked. We went into emergency response mode. We activated the National Guard. We opened centers and facilities all over this state. This particular task is not going to be unlike that particular task. It's just going to be confined to a smaller geographic area inside the city limits, but it is going to be a massive undertaking to be prepared to distribute both potable and non-potable water at multiple different facilities situated throughout the city, so as to keep people in a spot in which they can properly function. So with that, I'll open the floor up to questions. In the back.
Governor, we've been reporting on these issues since February of this year. Is there a reason why some of these resources and efforts weren't put in place until escalating to this point?
Well, I do appreciate the fact that y'all been reporting on it since February. The State Department of Health and the EPA issued an order with respect to many of these items in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And so many of these issues that are before us were identified by both the state agency as well as the federal agency that are responsible for overseeing the water treatment facility and other items. What has changed today is a failure of the O.B. Curtis facility, which has led to not only the likelihood of a significant extension in the boil water notices. Obviously, the boil water notice began in July 29, 2022. Today is August 29, 2022. So basically, the boil water notice has been in effect for 30 days. There was, as I appreciate it, additional testing done over the weekend. That additional testing was not done by the State Department of Health lab. It was done by another entity. But once again, that entity did not deliver 2 consecutive days of clean water. The piece that has changed today is the fact that OB Curtis is not functioning at full capacity. As was said earlier, there are 2 primary pumps at the OB Curtis facility. Each of those 2 pumps have 2 motors. Both of those pumps and both of those motors went out some time ago. There was 2 backup pumps that were available, as I appreciate it. Those 2 backup pumps have been operating for a extended period of time. We are hopeful that once we get visibility inside the facility, that we can identify exactly what and where those pumps are and when they may be able to get back online. But obviously we have no redundancy. No redundancy leads to any minor failure with what is otherwise equipment that is operating and has been for a long time, leads to situations in which water may not be able to be delivered to the citizens of Jackson. So again, for the last 30 days, we've had a boil water notice. That has been certainly an inconvenience for many, but there is obviously a distinction between a boil water notice that is an inconvenience and water not running through the pipes such that we cannot provide, or the city cannot provide, or volunteer firefighters cannot provide water to put out fires. They cannot flush their toilets. That takes it to a different level, particularly in a city the size of Jackson. Yes, sir.
Do we have any idea of the number of residents or homes where they won't be able to flush the toilet or, say, shower tonight?
I can't answer any specific questions, but there are 150,000 residents of the city of Jackson, and I can't tell you with certainty what the water pressure issues are going to be for any of those residents or businesses in the city. Would anyone like to take a guess as to?
Tens of thousands, we're talking over 100,000. How many people won't be able to flush their toilets tonight with running water?
Yeah, I don't know that we have that visibility on exactly what those numbers would be. But I will say a lot of the overhead storage capacity in the city right now is very low or near empty. And a lot of that pressure, the head pressure on the system, is what helps people be able to flush those toilets. So as long as those pressure tanks are low, we will experience inability to flush or lack of water pressure in a lot of the city.
I'm sorry, just one more question following that. How long can the city operate without running water, distributing water the way you're planning to do? I mean, this isn't sustainable. How long can you go with this emergency plan for?
We're going to go with this emergency plan as long as we have to. We are hopeful that once the Incident Command Center gets operational, first thing tomorrow morning, that we will have better visibility on what's happening inside the facility. As you know, this is a facility that is run currently by the city of Jackson. We are committed to building out the distribution for both potable and non-potable water to provide for the residents for as long as is necessary. Yes, sir.
I know some Jackson area legislators have called or raised the possibility of calling a special session of the legislature to address the crisis. Do you anticipate that at this time?
We certainly appreciate their concern. What we are focused on right now is the immediate crisis at hand, and that is the potential and the likelihood for a lack of running water in the city. There are many long-term issues and long-term challenges that must be addressed. I know that I'm sure they have been involved in conversations surrounding the long-term issues. I know I have been involved with legislative leadership with respect to the long-term issues, but where we find ourselves today is we are declaring this emergency situation. I will sign the state of emergency because the emergency that is immediately before us is doing everything we can through this incident command center to make sure that we get running water back to the residents of the city of Jackson as soon as is humanly possible. I do not want to set unrealistic expectations. I'm not up here to tell you that that's going to happen immediately or within 12 hours or 24 hours, but I do know that when it became very clear that there would be an interruption in the flow of water in the city of Jackson, this emergency became necessary.
Yes, sir. Governor, what would be the time frame for this, not like in a specific number of days, but what's the end goal for this project? Is it just to get the water pressure back up to what's functional? Is it to make sure this facility can continue that pressure, or is it a longer term process?
Well, this would be a shorter term process. The conversations that the leadership team has had with the mayor contemplates somewhere between a 3 to 4 month period, which would include significant outside help. Obviously, we have experts at the State Department of Health in these issues, but the State Department of Health does not run water systems. They are the regulator. We do not have people in state government that are situated that every single day have the time and the ability to go to work and run one city's water system. So I would expect that this will include contracting. Contracting that would at least initially be paid partially by the city and partially by the state. We want this to be a cooperative effort. I know that that is important. That we are able to get that cooperative effort. It's the reason that that the leaders behind me met with the mayor earlier today. We want a cooperative effort, but we are going to do everything we can to get O.B. Curtis back online as soon as possible. Getting O.B. Curtis back online is extremely important. We believe in transparency. When the Incident Command Center is set up, there will be a daily incident command report, just like there was during COVID. That daily incident command report it allows for ensuring that no resident that wants to find out what's going on a daily basis can't find out. So we want to make sure that we're completely transparent in what we are doing, what the joint effort is, and the things that are being ensured that we get the water back flowing with appropriate water pressure. Again, and I don't want to belittle anyone, but I want to make sure we differentiate here because I will tell you, I'm certainly not an expert in water, but you have both quality of water. We've struggled in the city of Jackson with quality of water because we had a boil water notice for the last 30 days. Now today we're mostly talking about quantity of water, ensuring that we have proper pressure to run through the system so that the little things like when you turn on water for a shower or when you go to flush your toilet, that those things happen. And so we do believe that we have to get the quantity of water piece fixed. We have to get O.B. Curtis back operating at full capacity to get the quantity of water piece fixed, most likely before we can get the quality of water fixed. But again, for all of those specifics, we've got to get visibility inside the plant, and we'll be able to give you more details once that occurs. Yes, sir.
So you said the possibility of this was known about since Friday. It wasn't announced till today that the flooding was putting a strain on the system and leading to water pressure issues. So how much of this is because of the flooding, and what, I guess, changed between Friday and now?
I'm not an expert, and I can't comment what effect the flooding may or may not have had on where we find ourselves today. Yes, sir.
You said that you were going to sign an emergency declaration. Would that entail funds from the federal government to help with this response? And secondly, you mentioned that your team has met with the mayor. You understand that he agrees to the terms that may be moving forward, but you all have not had a personal dialogue together, or have you?
That's correct. We have not had a personal dialogue. You may recall that today is August the 29th. 17 years ago today, Hurricane Katrina hit. I spent most of today on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, remembering those brave souls that stepped up after Hurricane Katrina, both in the state of Mississippi and throughout America, that came and provided help here in the city of Jackson. I am hopeful with this particular water crisis, should it extend longer than we all hope that it will extend, that we see a similar uprising of support from people across the state to help our fellow residents in the city of Jackson. At least two of the people standing behind me met personally with him. We've been in contact with the mayor constantly over the last several days with respect to this, and so I believe that it is in everyone's best interest that at this Joint Incident Command Center that there is representation from the city, from the county. Certainly there will be representation from the state, both the Department of Health and the Emergency Management Agency, and I feel fairly confident that the relevant people at the EPA will be kept up to date on each and every move that is made, because again, there have been orders in place that have not been adhered to since 2016. So I'm hopeful that where we find ourselves, everyone recognizes the seriousness of this situation, the fact that the potential for lack of running water, which I'm not sure was entirely clear throughout today, and one of the reasons that we're having this conversation at 7 p.m. on a Monday night is because it seemed that there were those in the city that were unclear as to exactly the state of the situation. When I ran for governor, I said it. When I was sworn in, I said it. I am not going to be a governor that is here to hide our problems. I'm a governor that's here to try to fix our problems. We have the best emergency management and emergency response team in all of America. If I had to go to battle with respect to this issue with any group, it's the people that we have standing behind me and their teams. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen quick. Doesn't mean that this is going to get fixed overnight. And when you talk about what has changed, while the O.B. Curtis facility was not operating at full capacity for the last 20 days or so, it was working at 90% or 85% or 95%. It was working at close to capacity, and we've got to get in there, work with the existing operators, because as I said before, and I want to say again, there are existing operators inside that facility that are knowledgeable, that are capable, that are competent, and quite frankly, some of them have been doing heroic work, but there's just not enough of them. It has been cited repeatedly, the lack of operators in that facility and the other facility for that point. Just so everyone knows, I talked a little bit about the quality and the quantity issue earlier. We have two water treatment facilities in the city of Jackson, Fuel and O.B. Curtis. O.B. Curtis is not operating anywhere near capacity, and we may find out tomorrow it's not operating at all. We'll find out. But what we do know is that where it is operating is put it at a position in which the quantity of water that is moving through the pipes in the city of Jackson, not even speaking to the quantity is not sufficient to provide the kind of water pressure that we need to do a lot of things. Clearly, it's not moving through the system fast enough to get to the 19th floor of the Sillers building to ensure that our chiller is keeping the 19 floors of state government operating properly, but it's also in some instances perhaps not getting to the 4th or 5th floor of dorm rooms at Jackson State, just as an example. I know we've been working with their finance team over the last several days trying to work through these issues, and we'll continue to do so. Yes, sir.
Governor, there's been concerns raised on social media about this being a citywide water cutoff. Is that the case? The city's put out a statement that is false.
No one has made to my knowledge, no one has made a conscious decision to cut water off to the city of Jackson. I'm not aware that any conscious decision was made to do that. There has been, we find ourselves in a situation for a number and a myriad of reasons that the O.B. Curtis plant is not only not operating at full capacity, it's not operating anywhere near full capacity. That lack of operating, for whatever reason, and as our experts get into the facility sometime tomorrow, we'll have better visibility on that. But at this time, I am not aware of any conscious decision made by the city to intentionally cut off water. I'm going to go to the TV for just a second.
Governor, Bobby Harrison from Mississippi today has a question.
Great.
Is there anything the Department of Health could have got, or your...
Hey, Bobby, will you start over? I'm not sure. I think we had you on mute, so I just picked you up. If you'll start over with your question, it'll be helpful.
Okay. Thank you, Governor. Just two questions. You said that this came apparent to you last week. Is there anything the Department of Health could have done, or to refer to your experts to have kind of dealt with this a little bit earlier, or was it just the circumstances, the way it came out? And the second question is, do we know where the water distribution points are going to be yet?
Okay, so with respect to your first question, I know that the team at the State Department of Health as well as the EPA has been working tirelessly since 2016, trying to convince the city to come into compliance with the orders that had been put forth, that they were generally unsuccessful at that. The fact is there will be time in the future to assess the actions taken by everyone. What I am focused on right now is ensuring that we get an incident command center set up at the facility. They will be at O.B. Curtis first thing tomorrow morning. They will work with those city personnel that are currently there. And we will assess what needs to be done to get the quantity of water flowing as quickly as humanly possible. And so I will tell you that. With respect to distribution facilities, at this time, the EPA order that I mentioned earlier mandates that there's water distribution at fire stations. I wouldn't submit to you that we think that is, given the severity of the situation, the best place to confine water distribution to for a number of reasons. But we're going to initially begin our water distribution as a supplement to the cities. As you probably have seen, the city has distributed some water, clean water, at these various fire stations. We have water that has already been ordered that we will start getting out to supplement those at the fire stations. But I would expect, and Mac, you can confirm this or say whatever you want to say, I would expect that we will first encourage the EPA to allow us to expand that particular distribution to non-fire station locations. And if it gets to a point where the lines are so long as we would expect them to be, we will go ahead and make that decision to expand beyond just the fire stations. But in the very short run, we're hopeful that the toilets will flush overnight, and we'll be able to finalize some of those decisions sometime tomorrow. Mac, you want to?
That's perfect. Yeah, the water distribution, we're going to have to fall in right where we are right now at those fire stations. But also, I'm going to start bringing in non-potable water. That way you can pick up water to be able to flush toilets and do other things with that you need to do at home as well. That's going to be lining up tankers for 179,000 people. This is not a small lift. That is why we use other state agencies like the National Guard. We call them into, and we're good at it. We are very good at distribution in the state of Mississippi, and I'm very confident in that we're going to be able to tailor this, be here for the long haul if needed, but we're really getting the people what they need: life safety, fire safety. That's where I'm at. Those are the two things that I am concentrating on, along with the Department of Health, to get in and do an assessment of the facility to where we are, assist those operators that are already there doing great things, get them the tools, get them the parts, whatever it is that they need. We'll figure that system out. And people in Mississippi, pull our boots up and we go to work. This is where we are. This is what we're going to do. That's all I got.
Yes, sir.
Do you think the mayor has been misleading about the severity of this issue? And secondly, was he invited tonight?
I don't see any reason to play Monday morning quarterback on any decisions that have been made by any other elected official. These are challenging issues. I didn't personally invite the mayor tonight. I don't know if anyone else did or not. Obviously, we made a decision very, very quickly in the last couple of hours to have this event. I want the people of Mississippi to know the severity of the situation, and I want them to know that we are on it and that we are going to approach this in the same manner in which we've approached every other major disaster declaration in my tenure. You may remember, most of you have heard me say this many times, dating back to 1972 when the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency started keeping statistics. Prior to 2020, the most federally declared disasters Mississippi's ever had in any one year was 4. In my first 14 months, we had 14. And we've approached every single one of them with the sincerity and the focus of fixing the initial challenges that are before us, which, as Max said, life, safety, as well as, in this case, the seriousness of the fire situation should the water go out completely, so as we can protect lives. We are going to approach it this way. When we talk about O.B. Curtis, the way what I want to leave you with, and this is not going to be perfect, but, and look, I get that everybody didn't love this approach when we did it, but when there was constant consternation in August of last year that we didn't have adequate healthcare staff, we tasked the Mississippi Department of Health and the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency with going out and solving that problem. Within a week, we had secured contracts with some 1,300 people from around the country that came in and ensured that we had the physicians that we needed, that we had the nurses that we needed, that we had the respiratory therapists that we needed. We will approach this with the same focus that we've approached that particular issue, and because we believe that the seriousness and the severity for the 150,000 residents and the some 30,000 or so that travel into the city to work on a daily basis deserve exactly that. Yes, sir.
Just two really quick questions. So firstly, is JH Fuel running normally as operated? And then secondly, as far as the timeline for water distribution, if we wake up in the morning and O.B. Curtis is not running at all, are people able to get water at that point, or what's the exact timeline?
I'm going to ask Jim to come talk about fuel. I think he has a little bit of visibility there. Then I'll ask Mac to talk a little bit about the time frame. It's not going to happen overnight, but I think what we often say in a emergency crisis is please prepare such that you'll have to take care of yourselves for 72 hours. Hopefully we can start getting some distribution because we've already been working over the last several days starting that process, but I'll let him answer that question. Jim, fuel?
Thank you, Governor. So the fuel plant is approved by the Health Department to operate at 20 million gallons a day. With some of the issues with O.B. Curtis, they've been approved to flex up to close to 30 million gallons per day. I don't know, again, until we get the assessment team in-house tomorrow, exactly what level they're operating now, but they were authorized to flex up.
Distribution plan. Yeah, I guess the 72 hours or 72 minutes started about 4 o'clock for me today. So the first 72 is on you, but I'm trying to compact that very, very shortly. Logistics officers here at MEMA gave them direct order probably about 6:30 tonight. Go ahead and contract and get more water coming in. We do have the warehouse, which was something we did during COVID. We needed to have a place to distribute a lot of medical supplies all around the state, needles, you name it, for the COVID mission. And we also have, a hurricane stock, a tornado stock. It's not the biggest in the world, but I'm going to be able to roll out of there with probably 38,000 bottles of water first thing in the morning, and then 18-wheelers are on the way. Logistics officers here have already made that order, so we're going to fall that in as quickly as possible. Right behind that is the non-potable mission, which that's a tanker pulling up where you bring containers from home, whether it's a 5-gallon container or anything else, to be able to fill that up with non-drinkable, non-potable water, and then be able to use that for your daily business that you need to do. Is that good? All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Governor Reeves, you mentioned the shortage in operators at the plant, and the city says that's been an issue for some time now. Does the state have any plans to possibly work with the city to get more operators at O.B. Curtis?
The state, number one, has plans to work in cooperation with the city. Number two, the state is going to get more operators at O.B. Curtis. It's likely that those will be contract employees. Obviously, we don't have a large number of operators. There are hundreds of water systems situated throughout Mississippi. We run none of them. So we don't have operators just sitting around at their desk at the State Health Lab waiting to go out and run the operations of a facility such as O.B. Curtis. Not to get into a lot of details because I would be out over my skis to do so, but the water treatment facility at O.B. Curtis is not identical to every water treatment facility in every municipality and every rural water association in the entire state, much less the entire country. And so that is why it is extremely important that we have cooperation with the city, because those operators that are currently there that understand and know the system, we need to work with them as we bring in help to what they are doing. There's some, again, some folks who have been doing heroic work. We commend them for that, but they need more of them. We need the Incident Command Center set up. We need the evaluators in the facility determining what are the next steps that need to take. And for me to go into any detail as to what those next steps are without having visibility inside the facility is just not going to happen tonight, because I can't do that.
Yes, sir. Governor, you mentioned earlier your desire to get the National Guard involved in this. Do you plan on requesting them whenever the emergency declaration is finalized?
Yes, we, as you know, this facility here at MEMA houses a large number of state agencies, and we have National Guard commanders that spend a lot of time here. This will not come as a surprise to them that we're looking to do whatever we have to do to make the distribution operate and function. Their logistics team working with MEMA has been fantastic. They've been fantastic every single time we've asked them to be fantastic, and I have no doubt that they will be this time. Again, it'll be a little bit more challenging because you have, again, 150,000 residents in a city the size of Jackson, rather than what we've done where we've had very large distribution of vaccines, for instance, as well as testing, et cetera, before the vaccines came out. But I'm confident that they have been working over the last 48 hours developing that plan. And while I'm sure, as always, they would love to have more time to develop it, that it'll work fine. Did you want to speak to that?
Distribution is going to work very well. The Guard already has the mission. The governor and I talked earlier in the day, and I actually gave them a warning probably about a week ago. Said, look, here's a warning order. You might be coming in for this mission. So we've trained one unit specifically to do the hurricane mission of pod distribution. They are trained, rocking, ready to roll. And so they're ready to bring on about 400 to 500 soldiers to do the job that we need for them to do, and they're going to do fantastic at it. It's not their first rodeo. This is their expertise. And we'll bring that team in, and then we'll adjust it. We'll adjust it as necessary as we see the city's needs adjust. If we get certain areas that have water pressure back and whatnot, we'll adjust from there and go to do the drinking water, the potable water.
You said there's 2 plants that serve the city. Do we have an idea of the percentage of water that comes from O.B. Curtis and the percentage of water that comes from the other plant, just so we understand what the impact is? And then second question after, where are these tankers going to, the tankers that you're bringing in?
So I'll take the first one. So O.B. Curtis is rated for 50 million gallons per day, and fuel is rated for 20 and approved for 20 million gallons a day. So that's the size of the 2 surface water treatment plants in the city.
I'm sorry to ask again, but the city depends, like, 60% of the water comes from that plant and 40% from the other plant. Just in simple terms, you've got two plants that serve the city, or my understanding. Do you know how much water comes from one plant versus the other?
So again, O.B. Curtis is rated to provide about 50 million gallons and fuel about 20 million. So if you figure 70 million gallons a day, 50 million comes from O.B. Curtis and 20 comes from fuel. Right now, fuel has been flexed up to closer to 30 to try to offset for O.B. Curtis being less than 50.
As a follow-up to that, though, do they both serve the entire city, or is one only serving a certain geography?
So the surface water treatment system is a surface water treatment system. So most of the city that is on the surface water is fed from water that may come from either one. So the pressure in the tanks overhead help create the pressure through the system. It really, there are parts of the city that most of their first line water comes from fuel, and parts of the city that most of their water comes from O.B. Curtis, but it is part of the same system.
Talk about distribution trucks. Of course, we're falling in on drinkable water right on top of the fire stations. They've already been doing it. It's an EPA mandate. And then the potable water, we want to get permission, non-potable, to the tankers when they come in, get permission from the EPA to move them somewhere else, because I do not want to create a bottleneck around fire stations that are trying to get ambulances in, ambulances out, engines in, engines out. We really need to give them some relief because of the massive amount of people that are going to be coming over the next few days. So that's kind of a TBD, to be determined, and we'll see where we can get those done.
And I'll just add, we do have two primary facilities that keep state government operating and functional with respect to chillers, et cetera. We have already made the decision to order tanks for those two facilities. We've also let agency directors who have staff inside the city of Jackson make decisions tomorrow as to exactly who comes in and who doesn't. But state government will be operating tomorrow one way or the other. Yes, sir.
You talked a lot about increasing the volume of water that's being able to be used for emergency response, for folks to be able to flush toilets, take showers, et cetera, et cetera. What about getting the water to the level that it is acceptable for people to drink? I know you guys don't know how long that's particularly going to take, but what are some of the things that are going to have to happen to get to that?
Well, I appreciate that. I'm gonna let Jim answer it. But basically, the first step in the process is getting adequate water pumped through O.B. Curtis such that is clean, and then it's going to take time to pump it through the system to get all of what is currently bad water out. And so without going into specific details, and I certainly am not an engineer, but in essence, we've got to get O.B. Curtis online, pumping, if not at 50 million, very near 50 million gallons. And then it's going to take some time to pump it through to get, for the State Department of Health, and again, I'll let Jim address this, but as I appreciate it, the way in which they test it is there are 20 samples taken in one day. You have to get 20 samples out of 20 correct one day, and then you have to come back the next day in which there are 20 samples taken, and those 20 samples have to be clean as well. And so it takes 2 consecutive days of clean, but I'm going to let Jim, he'll talk much more intelligently about it.
Well, and just one correction on the number, it's 120 samples per day for each one. No, I just want to make sure. To the question as to what will we need to do once we get inside to figure out how to improve the quality of the water at the same time, I think we'll have 3 engineers our health department engineers that'll be on site in the morning so they can get that assessment put together so that we can get a work plan put together to see what we can do to increase quantity, while at the same time, if we can get some of the quality increase, that is part of our mission.
Yes, sir.
Jim, do you know roughly in terms of gallons per day, or characterizing some other way the amount of gallons that are, or how much is coming out of O.B. Curtis right now, or at some point today?
We really don't know, and I think that's why the assessment team's got to get in there in the morning and just get a good visibility on process.
Yes, sir.
The city also has a well water system, as I understand, which serves part of primarily southwest Jackson. And I understand there have been some problems with it as well. Does the state also plan to get involved with operation of that system?
So there is a well system to the southern part of Jackson. We understand that there's potentially some breaks that may have caused some pressure problems in that part of the system. That will be part of our assessment in the morning when we arrive.
Governor, in terms of the effect on schools, do you have any idea if the whole city is going to have to go virtual for the school system? Or?
I am concerned, again, speaking to the actual emergency that is before us, I am concerned that there will be schools inside the city limits that are not able to have in-person learning. We have seen over the last 2 to 3 years the negative consequences for kids when that is the case. It's why it is so important that we once we learned that water pressure was going to be a major issue and the ability to get the water through the pumps and therefore the ability for flushing toilets was made known to us sometime today, why it is so very important that we do everything we can to get that back online operational as soon as possible. I think there will be some schools in the city that will go to school tomorrow, and I'm afraid that there will be some that do not. But I am very concerned, as I was throughout COVID. We know that when kids are not in the classroom, they're likely not learning, and we want to minimize the time. And I wish I could tell you a time frame that they would be out for an hour or a day or 2 days, but we just don't have enough visibility in the O.B. Curtis plant at this time to be able to tell you that. Yes, ma'am.
Bobby Harrison has a question.
Good.
Bobby.
The Governor, I know there's an immediate crisis, so I almost apologize first off for asking this, but I mean, do you foresee trying to do anything related to legislation or anything before 2023, and do you foresee doing something at least by 2023 to deal with this continuing issue, or are you looking that far ahead yet?
Bobby, I think there's a lot of appetite by some inside the legislature for legislation. I mean, look, there always is, right? Legislators legislate. That's what they do. But I think there's a lot of appetite for some to do that. I think there's probably some appetite to not do that as well amongst some. But what I will tell you is what I am focused on right now is getting this Incident Command Center set up at O.B. Curtis tomorrow morning, identify, get visibility on what's going on inside the facility so we can know. It was a great question. How many gallons of water are being pumped out of O.B. Curtis tonight? We can't answer that question. We need to be able to answer that question. The only way we can do that is by getting visibility inside. And so while it's certainly a valid question, Bobby, and one that I wish I could answer for you, but we don't have enough visibility, and really we've got to focus on the immediate crisis to try to get water pressure back for the city. Well, again, seeing no further questions, I want to be clear as I conclude today. We stood up here and answered every question that you had. And the reason we stood up here and answered every question that you had, because we think in a situation like this, transparency is exceptionally important. And we think it's very important that we answer questions. I want to reiterate, there will be an Incident Command Center set up tomorrow. There will be a daily Incident Command report that is performed, and that will give not only me, but it will ultimately give the people of Jackson, the people of the state of Mississippi, confidence that we are doing everything in our power to deal with the immediate crisis that is before us, which is obviously the lack of water flow in the pipes, which lead to the potential for not having water for fire trucks, which we have already addressed with through the emergency management piece, the fact that there may be toilets that may not flush tomorrow. But I want to be clear also to the people of Jackson, don't panic. I understand that this is not news that you want to hear. I get it. I live in the city. It's not news that I want to hear. But we are going to be there for you. We are going to set up a distribution system where we have both potable and non-potable water. We don't typically run water systems. In fact, there are hundreds of water systems throughout the state of Mississippi. We don't typically run them, but we do have some experts at the Department of Health that will be on site tomorrow that will identify the challenges and identify the fastest ways we can get OB Curtis back online. We will do that. We will make sure that the distribution is done in a way that impacts the fewest amount of people in terms of long waits, but it's going to take us a little bit of time to get that finalized. So again, I want to thank every single one of you for being here late on a Monday night. I can assure you that the people here at MEMA and the people at the State Department of Health will work constantly from now until we get to a point in which we can restore first the quantity of water for the city of Jackson, and then ultimately, over time, the quality of that water as well, so that we can provide clean drinking water for the citizens of Jackson. This is not a task that I intended to have to deal with when I decided to run for governor in 2019, but I also am not going to shy away from it just because it's hard, okay? We will do what it takes to get water to the city of Jackson. So again, on this, the 17-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, hard things happen. I wasn't elected governor to try to hide those hard things. I'm here to try to fix them, and that's what we're going to do in the coming days and weeks and months. So thank y'all, and God bless.